Hey y'all, it is my 271st daily reading, and today I'm going to read out of Get What You Want, The Art of Making and Manifesting Your Intentions by Tony Burrows. And in continuation of yesterday's reading, this one is called Mercy. Who among you would deny mercy unto yourself? Li Ching helped us create the Intenders. What you may not know is that he is the archetype of mercy, the male counterpart of Kuan Yin, who is the archetype of compassion. We thought you'd like to hear this very special story about him. This man was the commander-in-chief of vast armies in a time that has long been forgotten in our current reckoning of history. He was both respected and feared as one of the most powerful men in the realm. At the time our tale begins, two great civilizations known as Atlantis and Lemuria had been involved in a series of wars for centuries, and despite all efforts to bring peace to the land, no one of integrity had stepped forward to speak out on behalf of the true good of the people. The world situation was at a stalemate. A cycle of decadence and darkness prevailed. Envision, if you will, a setting late one autumn afternoon toward the end of a particularly bloody battle in a valley that was strewn with bodies of brave men and women. With no sign of either side looking to retreat, the carnage continued unabated. The commander of the Lemurian army had fought relentlessly all day alongside his fellow soldiers, and his sword was covered with the blood and sinew of fallen enemies. Though weary and wounded, he battled on, willing to fight until the last man was left standing or he himself was killed. At a certain moment, with the twilight fast approaching, he found himself in a furious struggle with a very strong, courageous opponent. After almost 20 minutes of toe-to-toe combat, again this formidable warrior, the Lemurian commander, swung his mighty sword at his rival and connected. The brave man fell on his back. His helmet and sword flew to the ground beside him. Just as the great commander readied to run his sword through the defenseless man's chest, he paused for an instant to look into the face of his enemy. The soldier was just a boy, no more than 17 or 18 years of age, whose body had matured rapidly considering its years. The young man's eyes were filled with a terror beyond imagination. He knew that he was about to die. Suddenly, as often happens when one is pushed to the limits of strength and endurance, the great commander's perception shifted. With his sword held high in the air, he glanced out of the corner of his eye at the bloody battle that raged around him. Arms and legs flailed in a strange slow motion like dance. Nearby shouts and screams seemed to come from far off in the distance. His entire awareness changed as a new power rippled through his body. He felt expanded into something much greater than he was just moments before. In that same instant, his knowledge increased dramatically. The future and past revealed themselves in one momentous flash. He looked down at the boy laying at his feet and saw into the depths of his young opponent's soul. This boy didn't want to die. He longed to be safe and warm in the comforts of his own home with his loved ones and family. He dreamt of once again running through the fields with the beautiful fiancée he left behind when he went off to war. The great commander then saw a part of himself in the young man's eyes. He saw a part of himself in everything around him. A feeling of deep compassion, such as he had never known before, overcame him. He knew he could not move to kill the helpless boy because, in doing so, he would only be killing himself. He dropped his sword to the ground and walked away from the battle to the top of a nearby hill. What happened next was told and retold, passed on from generation to generation, for thousands of years. There, as darkness shrouded the land, he fell to his knees, vowing never to harm or kill again, and in that moment he was enlightened. Immediately the soldiers in the valley below stopped their fighting and looked to the glow on the hill. 10,000 people witnessed the light as it became brighter and brighter and broke free from its connection with the earth. The great commander slowly ascended to perhaps 300 feet above the hill and then gently floated to a point directly over the center of the battlefield. Some said that he hovered there for only a short time, while others reported that it seemed like hours. However long it was, all of those present were bathed and purified in the crystal blue-white radiance that gently showered down on them from above. None who were there that evening would ever go forth to fight again. Mercy, a new respect for one's fellow man were reborn. Mercy and a new respect for one's fellow man were reborn within the human experience. In time, the hovering white light began to fade, and an outline of the commander's body took shape again. He settled slowly to the earth and beckoned the soldiers to step back and give him room. Directly he approached the boy who had fallen defenseless beneath his sword earlier and held out his arm. The two embraced like long-lost brothers. And when they finally pulled apart, the great commander bid the boy to go home to his family and fiancé and live his life in peace. As the story goes, all the soldiers on both sides left their weapons lying on the ground that night and sat around campfires together in silence. The next morning they began their return home to their families, carrying with them the story of what had happened the day before. Word quickly spread far and wide of a new Savior who walked the land. The great commander had become a Christed being, a warrior for the light, and from that point on, everywhere he went, people were transformed as if by magic into fulfilled, joyful human beings. The series of wars that had lasted for centuries came to a sudden halt. Atlantis and Lemuria flourished once again as they had before the senseless wars had started. It would be another 13,000 years before mankind forgot about the power of mercy and the example that was set that night by the great commander. These two magnificent cultures and all of their wondrous architectural and scientific achievements would one day be washed beneath the ocean waves into the sea and lost forever. But that is not the end of our tale. The great commander and Savior's teachings, after being forgotten for lifetimes upon lifetimes, are now returning to the people of the earth. His messages are heard in quiet moments in the minds of those who call forth the return of mercy. More and more people each day are choosing to lay down their swords and set aside their control issues in favor of peace. More and more are urging their national leaders to stop bullying one another and take a stance for the highest interests of all mankind. We are beginning to understand that acts of compassion and mercy inherently vanquish fear and return us to safety and comfort. We are moving toward a better world. Furthermore, it is now being heralded in obscure writings here and there that the great ascended commander himself will return one day in the near future to walk again among the people and show them the magnificent rewards that come to the merciful. Indeed, among the scribes who announce his return, there is one man who has faint memories, visions, of a lifetime long past when he lay, defeated and helpless on his back, with a great warrior standing over him, sword raised and ready to strike. And sometimes in rare moments of even deeper contemplation, he remembers a pact made between his soul and the soul of the great commander. Their agreement was to come to earth in times of unrelenting darkness and play out the roles of courageous rivals, so that this message about the power of mercy could be given unto you. my intention for today is, or as I always say, my affirmation for today is, I affirm that I am withdrawing the sword and I am allowing others to go free without any further persecution or judgment on my part. So, in line with all that we see occurring in our world today, I think it's important to stop and reflect on this information about mercy that's being shared in this book. Well, I am sending out love, light, and healing energy. Ask that you pay it forward and pass it on. And until tomorrow, peace. Later.